Brevard chapter of NOW and assisted in formation of the Space Coast Alliance. In addition, he co-founded Brevard Patriots for Peace. I'm hoping he and his family are going to return to reside in Brevard County, and I'd like to introduce Jeff Nall.
I want to pass these things around while I'm talking. A surreal sky bends you over your young child, a morbid tapestry, forlorn skin painted over an ash. Her dead and innocent waves putridly. Charred wounds leave gaping holes in her bloodless body. Her vacant eyes are tragically buried in a cruel grave made of rubble and shrapnel, betrayed by the inhumanity, the indifference to life of those that murdered her with such pinpoint accuracy. Among a mangled landscape of destruction, her tiny frame now lies, perverted by politics, ravaged by reasons, murdered by liberation, and wholly raped of life. Those that have experienced the birth of their own child know that the profundity of such elevates an otherwise egotistical existence to a selfless one. Thus it takes little to no imagination to understand the sometimes vengeful nature of a parent experiencing the loss of a child. And in this case, one tragically caught between bombs and mayhem of politics and warring parties. Whether an act of terrorism or a virtuous attempt to liberate a people from the rule of a tyrant. Once another man has taken your child's life, humanity becomes a luxury your heart often cannot afford. In January of this year, former Marine Intelligence Sergeant Nathaniel Travers testified that, quote, his comrades appeared to have needlessly killed civilians after their convoy was attacked by a suicide car bomb. In 2007, he was a part of an elite combat unit operating in eastern Afghanistan. The shootings took place on March 4th, 2007, near Jalalabad. And according to an Afghanistan Independent Human Rights Commission investigation, found the shootings, according to the New York Times, that, quote, the Marines had fired indiscriminately at pedestrians and people in cars, buses, and taxis over a 10-mile stretch of road after the attack. We know, according to the Iraq Body Count Study, which is an organization that doesn't estimate how many people may have died, which we know the number of innocent civilians to be about 500,000, probably, according to several independent studies. But the Iraq body count does something very interesting. They literally count the bodies, according to the Associated Press, Reuters, BBC. And that body count, as of now, stands between 81,000 and 88,000 innocent civilians. Now, in 2003, about 10,000 to 12,000 died. Well, in 2007, that number went to 22,000 to 24,000 lives. I was in Washington, D.C. on January 27th, and I wrote about a protest that took place. These pictures are from that protest. And this is about a 10-foot tall cylinder filled with children and adult shoes with the names of Iraqis. And the tower went out for about 5 feet. The shoes just spilled out. And one of the signs said, "Stop killing children, theirs and ours." My brother and I placed a tag on shoes. They invited you to participate in a very visceral way, to understand there's only a few thousand pairs of shoes there. We also know that in 2007, about 600 children were among those who were killed by our war. I want to, for a minute, read to you a very interesting perspective, a unique perspective on this thing, this blood. And I'm going to tell you whose words these are, and I want you to think about what this means. Every word that comes from Bush's mouth is a lie. When he says peace, he means war. And when he blasphemously uses the name of the Almighty, he means the power of evil, the fallen angel Satan. His mouth is the foul-smelling maw of hell, and his might is at bottom accursed. Who among us has any conception of the dimensions of shame that will befall us and our children when one day the veil has fallen from our eyes and the most horrible of crimes that infinitely outdistance every human measure, reach the light of day? If the American people are already so corrupted and spiritually crushed that they do not raise a hand, frivolously trusting in a questionable faith and lawful order of history, if they surrender man's highest principle, that which raises him above all other God's creatures, his free will, if they abandon the will to take decisive action and turn the wheel of history and thus subject it to their own rational decision, if they are so devoid of all individuality, have already gone so far down the road toward turning into spiritless and cowardly mass, then yes, they deserve their downfall. If America does not at last start out of its stupor, if it does not protest whenever, wherever, he can against this click of out of his stupor, if he does not protest wherever and whenever, he can against this clique of criminal. If he shows no sympathy for these hundreds of thousands of victims, he must evidence not only sympathy, no much more, a sense of complicity in the guilt. For through his apathetic behavior, he gives these evil men the opportunity to act as they do. He tolerates this government, which has taken upon itself an infinitely great burden of guilt.